Welcome to the Music Wide Open podcast
The place for an honest and thought-provoking conversation
about music,
business,
life,
technology,
and the future,
for curious music enthusiasts.
and musicians seeking personal growth. I'm Ingolf Wunder.
And I am Paulina Wunder. The state of being happy and the state of feeling successful are often confused. They do partly overlap, and therefore we tend to comprehend in a simplistic way that success equals happiness and happiness equals success. But what does it actually mean? And in order to get ahead in one's own life, one needs clear definitions of both, because only clarity and objectivity allow us to control how we feel about ourselves and make constructive changes when we feel stuck in a maze of our own uncertainty. Someone once said, "Success is getting what you want. Happiness is wanting what you get." And that's our subject for today. How do you like it?
Well, this is a profound one. I mean, success is surely most of the time measured by external achievements, I would say, while happiness is a deeply personal experience. So it's difficult to keep this in balance.
Why is this all so difficult? One gets what one wanted, then one discovers it doesn't make him happy because that's not it. It's a recurring theme in everybody's life, isn't it?
Yeah, it really seems to be. It's like a kind of a universal experience. It doesn't matter which culture, throughout history, I guess, people have pursued what they believed would make them happy. Whatever it is, wealth, status, only to reach, in the best case, to reach it and afterwards feel an unexpected sort of emptiness. And it's probably a reflection of a deeper human dilemma, I would say.
I will share here my private observation, which is quite difficult to put into words because it could be easily misinterpreted. And the last thing I want is to paint someone in a bad light. But I need to bring it up for the sake of this conversation. When I think of classical musicians, and in my life I have met really a lot of them, here I just want to underline, not all, but many, I would even say majority of them. These are really nice people, and I don't say this, what I'm going to say, to criticize anybody or to judge, rather to find a constructive answer. When one puts aside their laughter, jokes, etc., because they can be very funny as well, and observes them in a private setting, private casual conversation, not public appearances, because they can be misleading. People wear masks, sometimes they tense up. So in a private setting, when one observes their micro reactions, micro moves, listens to the color of their voice, the way they talk, sometimes even the way they construct the sentences, a big percentage of musicians, despite their successes, I have to repeat that, despite their successes, because a lot of people are really successful, right? Or more successful in comparison to ordinary people. These are not the most happy and positive people. There's some kind of underlying sadness in them. This is how I see it. And I need to add one thing. By a happy person, I don't mean someone running around with a dumb smile on the face. I mean content, someone who radiates optimism, as well motivates, can lift other people up with their words and attitude. So I mean on the energetic level. Do you see that as well?
Yeah, I do. I mean, here also I have to say, I mean, what I meant earlier by dilemma, this is a kind of a dissonance between expectations of society and personal fulfillment. And this is not only for musicians, this is for all professions. This is very important to say. It doesn't matter if you're in a public eye or corporate people or any really. But we as musicians have, of course, this, what the other ones don't have. We are wearing our hearts and souls on stage. We are, we have a public face more than other people. And this is, I think, a key difference as well. And so I agree with what you said. And if I may, I can put in my 2 cents as to why that most likely is.
Absolutely. This is what we are doing here.
And this is, I think these are 4 layers that do this to us. And to say us, because I mean, I think somebody that is happy.
Absolutely.
Probably because I'm not so much in the race. I never have been, by the way, as other people. Anyway.
Mentally as well, but yes. This maybe later.
Yeah, but these 4 layers. First, I go to the music, right? We have the compositional layer, let's call it. We musicians, classical musicians, in our times, I always have to say, because it was different in the past, are raised in the education system that we shouldn't even start composing or doing anything creative in terms of writing music, because you will anyway never be able to beat Mozart, Beethoven and Chopin and all these greats.
This is what musicians are being told.
Yes, which is, let's face it, for 99.9% probably true. But this 0.1% could absolutely write something as beautiful and timeless as Chopin and Mozart and co. Okay, but that's the first thing. So this cannot, that is put into your head.
A sort of automatic discouragement, one would say, right?
Then the second layer is the interpretation. I think we have been on it already several times in this podcast, and will, because that's a sort of a key. There are really no clear rules, and by rules I mean a framework of some sort that tells musicians what to do or what not to do in order to play music nicely. How can I put it best so that it's to be understood? There are rules and frameworks given, but they are so random and they are so different from professor to professor that there is no consensus in the artistic classical music world as to what is a really great interpretation. Everybody just says, I like this, I like that, and therefore...
Well, even if they say the same thing, they understand something different by it, because they often use the same words.
Correct, empty phrases, as I call it, or we call it, often, not always, but often. But this kind of lack of clear framework is it that makes musicians insecure from the beginning. Maybe not from the very beginning, because there you still trust the professors and everything, and you really chase something that you really believe in, and it's beautiful. But as soon as you are stepping, if you're lucky enough to step onto the parquet of the business, you see that there are no real clear rules. And this leads me to the third layer, which is the classical music business. And again, we have no clear rules, and musicians are not in control, because it's much more important whom you know and whom you don't know in order to make it. So it seems much more important how short your dress or how colorful your socks are than how well you play. Not always, but in many cases. So, but it leaves the feeling of that the musician, I don't know what to do. I'm not really happy with it. And the fourth layer has also to do with the business. And it's simply that if you compare it to the past, like 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, and compare the different fields like music and banking and other things, then in comparison, there's less money in classical music nowadays than there was in the past. So the importance is not there. Of course, don't get me wrong here, there's much more money now in music than back then, because there are more people, there's more money in the system and so on, but percentage-wise and the importance-wise. So in these 4 layers are basically all, from the musician's perspective, stuff that you chase and cannot really reach. And this makes you
disappointed.
And inside a bit, you don't know what's happening to you, because most of the people haven't really thought about that or aren't in the position to see these things clearly. But they sort of feel this not being in control. And I think unhappiness comes out of this.
I think that there are a lot of people with emotional scars here, or unfulfilled in a way, because something didn't go the way they expected. Well, one could say, like in everybody's life. Or frustrated, or burnt out. And I don't want to blame their sensitivity for that, because that would be an easy explanation, way too easy, and it doesn't bring any solution, obviously. Also, I would like to stay away here from a popular notion that only stupid people are happy, and those intelligent ones are always the sad ones, because they understand more and they are prone to pondering more, and it leads them to negative thoughts. This is a silly simplification. There is some truth to it, but this is a silly simplification, so we should dismiss it here. But generally speaking, one feels this disappointment and discontent in musicians, probably due to these factors that you mentioned.
Yeah, but by the way, if you think like smart or stupid people being happy or not happy, look at kids, like if you have very young human beings, they are happy.
That's true.
So, I mean, if they have parents, if they are healthy and so on, but basically they are not unhappy to live.
Of course not. Yeah, of course. The other thing is that, of course, it's impossible to be happy all the time, or positive. You have your private losses, all sorts of miseries, problems, also emotionally draining situations. But one can learn this happy, positive attitude, and it's beneficial for one's own health and also success. It's like if you learn how to be unconditionally happy, or let's say positive, and then the success is coming. And actually many people talk about it. Because it's like you shift your energy from bad to good, and then all of a sudden good things start to happen to you, because the mindset changed.
Yes.
And you start to attract good things. And I think musicians do that a little.
Well, it's difficult. I mean, it's difficult for everybody. But due to these 4 layers that I mentioned, I think it's quite difficult for classical musicians in our time, because some of the stuff I mentioned in these layers is putting it the way that our music, the thing that we love so much, and most of the musicians absolutely do, is becoming a commodity. And if it's a commodity, then you feel that, even if you don't know that it is as a musician, because you care about it. This not being in control, it just eats you, whether you know it or not. And I'm pretty sure that this is true. Of course, I can't be 100% sure, but I think it is.
Classical musicians can be really fun. And I honestly see it this way, and I see them. And some have a wonderful sense of humor, and one can have some meaningful conversations, be totally relaxed. But most of them, this is my subjective view, have to first take off their very controlled suit and uncover this other side. And I would say this is much more extreme, because everybody has this controlled side, especially if we don't know the other person, or we don't feel comfortable enough at first. But I think it's much more extreme here in case of musicians, than with other professions.
Yes, with classical musicians especially.
With classical, I said.
Because I think it's also, again, the information in these 4 layers kind of boils down to the fact that we all wear a sort of a straitjacket. Due to the fact this compositional restraint, due to the fact that interpretationally there's a lot of restraints. If you know, there's supposedly one knows how to play Mozart because somebody in the Viennese school thinks he knows how Mozart played his music. Same for Chopin, same for Beethoven, same for all the other composers. So you have everywhere straitjackets that you have to go into in order to sort of make it. But you're never told that actually all of that is a charade, because music is free, music is energy, music is frequency, and it should flow. As diverse as people are and always has been. But we are not taught this way. We are taught like, yes, play it as it's written in the score, and if you play it the best, then you will make career. And nobody tells you what the best actually is. It doesn't exist. Yeah. Because genius comes from surprise. You have to do the unusual in order to be great, and nobody tells you that. So this, I think, out of the straitjacket that we all wear comes the frustration, because if you're not free, people want to be free. Human beings want to be free, and if you're not free, then you miss something, even if you're not aware of it.
And then because of that, there are many complaining musicians, and one often hears, "Yes, that's okay, but yes, I had a success, but." It never or almost never sounds like, yes, maybe not everything went the way I wanted, but I'm happy. And sometimes it simply sounds, even if they say I'm happy, sometimes it sounds like, I'm happy. You know, you don't believe that. Although they would have many reasons actually to feel accomplished.
Yes, one more thing I didn't mention with the straitjacket, which is another one, by the way, are the recordings. I know this is quite common that people talk about that in the classical music scene, that we, especially in live performances, we are measured against the recordings of the past. Yeah. And even in the education system already, it's like, you know, this idiocy of saying play no wrong notes and stuff, this is coming out of this, although Beethoven and everybody else said actually no wrong note is a problem if you play with passion, right? But this is not taught this way. Yes. You are competing against highly polished recordings and basically the best of 100 years in terms of perfection, technical perfection. And that's why classical musicians are taught not to be happy, because you can't be happy because there's always a better recording. But this is idiotic, because the best musicians in the world...
and it starts very early. Please excuse me that I'm interrupting here. This being unhappy starts very early, because one sees already this stiffness growing in very young musicians. They are being taught a role. Sometimes even when a kid, for example, bows or makes a certain posture on stage, it's so, how to put it, trained, learned. It's not natural. And you see, for example, a 10-year-old kid and he behaves like an adult. It's not natural, because somebody told him this is how you should do, this way, that way. You don't have this spontaneous factor.
And then one has to think about who told the kid that.
That's another story. My point is this, that one puts a person in the straitjacket very early, and then you keep this straitjacket. And as we heard actually in the business, I'm not sure if you remember that during one of the photo shoots you had, and you as well didn't know how to behave or pose, and a person responsible for this photo shoot said something that actually very wise, like, oh, you guys, also guys, young artists, all the same, so a bit tense during the photo shoot, and then you're relaxing, you're completely different when the photo shoot is over, or whatever that is. In that case, it was a photo shoot, an interview. But I think it's due to the fact that it is subconscious. One, as a young musician already, is being taught how to be controlled. Shall I smile now? Shall I be serious? And that's why then we end up with plenty of covers, CD covers, or photo shoots with young artists. Older one could understand why, whatever. Still, maybe not entirely, I understand that. But younger artists, they don't smile, or they smile in a very insecure way, like they would be unhappy.
Well, this is also the straitjacket, because also don't forget, straitjackets, they are everywhere. But one of them is as well that it's a very hard profession. Meaning you have to be accurate to the millimeter, to the point, ready. And there's a lot of work that goes in there to train the muscles, to do all that. So there's not a lot of freedom you give yourself as well. You can give yourself because you need to train that, right? The freedom comes later, or should come later, and never comes because people keep reliving the straitjacket. But this freedom is not obvious in the profession. If you start going like, I want to be on the stages of the world, I want to really take it serious, then there's not a lot of freedom, because you need to get this perfection in a way in your fingers. But there, I think, is
especially that you're being judged from day zero.
Yes, exactly. But I think there one has to, this should be part of the education system, to actually make young pianists aware of that, saying, yes, you need to give yourself a straitjacket, because I know the great Maria Callas used that word for good, because at the end, to practice, you need to straitjacket stuff in order to really force your muscles to do this, what you want them to do, and that's great.
But after that...
Exactly, after that you have to be free.
And some are done with the straitjacket.
And stay there because they think it's needed in the business, because somebody tells them that it is. And then for some other reasons it might work for them, because of some economic reason or some market reason, and then they think it's the straitjacketing that makes their career. But it's not.
That's true. And then these all comparisons are coming. There will be always someone who will have what you don't. And musicians are comparing themselves to other musicians very much.
And to recordings.
And recordings, that's another thing. But as well, someone got this concert, or someone got this opportunity,
okay, yeah.
Someone got that kind of award, or something else. They compare all the time. And this is what as well brings this unhappiness.
Here in the defense of the musicians, this comparing is of course human, deeply human.
Everybody
does. And it's very, very easy to go down the rabbit hole and be unhappy because somebody else has something better than you, of course. But it happens in musicians' case a lot, yes.
But I think the crucial thing is the ability of being able to zoom out and see actually what you have and be happy you have it. Because there is always something you could lose. And I know that it might sound silly and boring, but I'm actually saying that out of my own experience, and it's connected to health. We don't appreciate what we have. And frankly speaking, I will go back here because it was an eye-opener for me. When I had my back problems for a longer period of time, and after I fixed that,
Someone has to say here where you couldn't walk, you couldn't
when I
sit.
couldn't walk, when I couldn't sit.
It's a serious.
Serious one, and it was a year of no life whatsoever, with a huge pain and discomfort. But after I was cured, I was waking up every day without pain, but I still was thinking like, I am so happy I have no pain anymore, thank you. So I was appreciating not having pain. And we usually, once things are going good for us, we're usually forgetting the bad times very quickly. That's to dismiss. We are not grateful that something actually, or not grateful enough that something improved, and can really appreciate that time. So I'm talking here about physical pain, but a lot of people have some kind of mental pain or other sorts of situations that bring this negative mood.
That's very true. Another thing, the balance I mentioned at the beginning, to balance it out, that you kind of need to be business-wise successful in order to be happy. Everybody wants that. But also musically, as a musician, like this, that you are that you are worth something for yourself if you take it serious. I mean, this is stupidly put, maybe, but it's in a way like this, that you...
It's a little bit like that. If nobody will believe in you if you don't believe in yourself.
Yes, and there we come actually to this, what we will also come back to often in these episodes, the core of why we should make music, or why musicians, the greatest musicians, do music actually, for a greater spirit, for something that isn't to be paid in money. And I think the balance between these two things, that you have to be in our society, in whatever this world is, you need to be as successful or to pass a certain threshold for you to be happy monetarily and success-wise, but as well to be happy with the value of music, or the higher spirit that you give with your music. And I think there's a good quote by Earl Nightingale that says, "Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal." And this is very, very true for us musicians. And in order to have this progressive realization of whatever you want to do or whatever you consider worthy, you need to have this balance of negativity, positivity, that you keep your system in a positive state in order to attract things that bring you forward.
It is very difficult, of course, but I think the basic rule here is first of all, to accept what you cannot change. That's number one. And then you can gradually start to shift your focus from your worries
and start changing what you can change.
To gratitude, and approach worries with a completely different mindset.
Yeah.
There is something like, we actually talk about that once in a while. There is something called negativity bias. It's a phenomenon, but very many people don't know even about it. The brain gets used to negativity because by default it focuses more on negative information, which is a survival mechanism, and is more sensitive to threats and dangers. And due to that, we simply get quickly addicted to negativity.
Exactly, because one has to say that we live in times where you don't need to, fight the saber-toothed tiger, so we don't have these threats anymore, but we still have these mechanisms in place.
That's right. And then now think about people who, for example, whatever positive you say will react, yes, but, or even will accuse you of being silly or not understanding this or the other kind of danger. Although what's danger nowadays, really? This comes exactly from that, from this negativity bias. So it's biological feature, but one can reprogram it. And this is because our brains at the same time have high plasticity. And it's actually an interesting thing, because when neurons, another thing that we as well talk in our private conversations, because we like these kind of subjects simply, when neurons shift from negative to positive associations, there is an actual change in their synaptic connections. And once that happens, and these connections become more solid, it can come with some practice. One shifts from being addicted to negativity to being addicted to positivity. And this is something really incredible. So there is hope for everyone.
Yes, I know it's difficult to start with that, but as you said, once you're in it, it becomes normal and your second nature, and stuff starts to come to you.
That's right. Well, you are a person who is always positive. I met you this way, and you stay this way. And I will reveal here something private. Whenever there's something that causes a bit minor mood, a problem or something that went not the way one wished for, you say something like, "I refuse to be negative." and then you immediately shake it off, start to think how to solve it or do something to improve the situation or the mood. I do the same at this point, but I had to learn it, and it took me a while and lots of practice before it became my second skin. And you have that in you, and it's like one of your basic features. I don't know how you do that, but it's very helpful in life. But here, why I'm saying this, not to praise you, here is another private thing I would like to reveal. Since you actually all the time have this positive aura or seem to be content with life, we have had many situations during our concert tours in which people from the music business, so promoters or some important individuals, expressed loudly, or to me, that they acknowledge you're a smiling person, so saying he smiles a lot. And in some cases it sounded like, it's so nice, he's such a positive, smiling person. And in other cases it sounded like, why he's smiling so much? Why is he so happy? I would say that was 50-50. And after some time, I realized how many, grumpy and unhappy beings work around artists. But what I want to say here is actually, if you have a negative perception of positive people, then you yourself will never be truly happy. So one has to start from that, actually. Unless you change something, of course, for real, then it's different right away. But look, so many people in general are annoyed by those who are happy. Yeah. So many people are, in fact, then unhappy.
The key word is personal reality. The reality you live in, this is the point of view you have when you look at others. So you always look through the lens of yourself, of your personal reality. So if you're grumpy and look at the happy person, then you will ask, why is he happy? And if you're happy and you see a grumpy person, you will see like, he's grumpy? I mean, how come?
That's true.
So it's not good or bad. I mean, this personal reality everybody has. The good, bad comes just for oneself, because to what you just said with the addiction of the brain, it's just bad for you if you're negative. As simple as this. It's the people. I mean, if you're positive, I don't care if people are negative. I mean, it's their own problem, so to speak. But it's just sad that they are, because it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. The feeling of accomplishment. What is it for musicians?
Well, it will probably differ for each and everybody. I can only say what it is for me. I mean, it is really this, I touched upon it already, but I will say it again. It's this combination of having a certain position or lifestyle or stuff that you really like to have in this world, whatever it is, again, we don't know. So this threshold has to be crossed in order for that part to be on the positive side, let's say. And then there's the value side, or the mission side, or the music side, in my case, that has to be doing this for you, what you expect. So if both things are high enough, then happiness is reached. And here, these two layers that I've just talked about are the business side, or the let's say the music side, or what you do as a profession. Then, of course, there's the personal happiness, which is always for me the baseline. Like the personal happipiness, the relationship, the family, the
balance.
Yes, this has to be just right in order for a house to be built on this ground. If that's shaky, then okay, you can compensate it with money or with other things, but it will always be not right. That's my personal view.
Well, that's as well the reason why many musicians who have a success bigger than other musicians stay unhappy, even if they reach the best music halls for decades, great concerts, great opportunities, prestige, a living legend status, they are not necessarily happy.
And in my view, there are these two things, like either the personal layer is not what they would wish, this is just assumptions, I don't know, because you talk in general, or the mission / value factor is this what deep down bugs them, because only oneself knows what one had to do in order to reach this, what is maybe good for the outside, reaching great concert halls or whatever, or having a lot of money. What you did in order to do this, or better said, what you did not do, or what you had to give up in order to reach it, this is often the reason for unhappiness.
Or maybe as simple as not being able to accept, this is what I've said already, what you cannot change. This is a very difficult task for most of the people. And in the end, happiness is not a physical thing. Let's put it this way. Successes are just episodes, and happiness is a state that can last much longer than any success.
That's right. That's right. Well, in this world of classical music, as I said, I will use this because it's really important to recap a little bit as well what we talked about, because it's really important that we have nowadays gatekeepers in classical music that sort of make life hard for musicians because of works of Beethoven, Mozart, and all these that we can never reach. And then the lack of a framework in interpretation that that doesn't teach young musicians from the start what masterful interpretations actually should be. And therefore we kind of are blind people who just try to find something in the dark and don't know where we go. If it's meant to be like this or not, I don't know, but it is by design. And due to these things, it's really, really important for musicians to take your own life in your own hands, sort of, to take your own brain in your own hands and be aware of your mental states, be strong enough, because at the beginning it's hard to actually change your mental states, even if the outer circumstances don't do it for you. So basically the outer circumstances stay negative, but you have to fight in order to make yourself positive. This is hard at the beginning, but only with such a superpower, let's say, which everybody can learn, by the way, everybody, it's possible to actually shift this whole thing and be able to, with positive attitude, to focus on the things that really matter in music. And a key thing in what I've just described, what we have just described here, is visualization. It's visualizing the life that one desires. This is really, really powerful. Because if you focus intently on deepest desires and align them with thoughts and the emotions, again, that you have to be in charge of, then you initiate a creative process, sort of, that from the ether or whatever you call it, things are coming to you. So in other words, it's you adjusting your internal world first, and the external world is then following suit, how you feel internally. And the key for such effective manifestation is not only in envisioning success, but in feeling it deeply. As you already said, you have to feel like it happened already, even if it didn't happen yet. And only then it actually will happen. And this way, happiness and success in the right balance can be really possible for everybody. Also us musicians.
And the wives.